What's good, family? So smash the like button, subscribe, and lick off the bell. Wow. So, David Benavidez just smoked David LeBum, aka David LEMIEX. Smoked his pack right the way in for him. Now, I can't lie to you. I had some coin on this fight, and anyone who knows what the odds were for this fight, it was something like you put 100 quid on, you get 105 quid back. So you had to put on about you had to put about half a bag on just to make any coin. But anyway, two twos. So bear in mind, people, that there was a similar fight earlier in the UK, which was Babic versus some dude called Balski. Anyway, two twos. That fight ended up being proper bad, and my arse was twitching because it ended up being, even though it's supposed to be the same as this kind of fight. Now I'll tell you that because in this fight, if you go back and watch the first minute or so, or maybe the first 30 seconds, David LeMieux came out and he actually caught Benavidez with a left hook. And I thought, listen, Benavidez is known, yes, his footwork isn't awful, but he's known for being quite static. Although, fair play to the guy, he has very tight defense and very high motivation. Now, when you have very high motivation and very tight defense, it is hard to get whooped by David LeBum. But still, David LeBum came out in the first 30 seconds and caught Benavidez with a nice left hook, and I started thinking, shit, is this going to be, because let's not forget, people, there's always upsets, isn't there? There's always some random dude, I mean, look at AJ versus Ruiz or whatever, there's always some random one that goes the other way and you end up punked on at the bookies, kind of thing. So I started thinking, no, not this one again. But listen, fair play to Benavidez. Yeah, this wasn't one of them ones where David LeMieux turned up to jump on the floor. This wasn't one of them. LeMieux came to fight. Fact. And despite LeMieux coming to fight, and to be honest with you, watch the Golovkin fight. LeMieux didn't come to fight. LeMieux was scared of Golovkin. And it took Golovkin 6-7 rounds to get rid of LeMieux. So the fact, in my opinion, Benavidez just beat a better version of LeMieux than Golovkin did. And he did it in a much more vicious and no-respect fashion. Again, it took Golovkin 7 rounds, to break him down. Now, LeMieux's a very explosive fighter, as we saw in the first 30 seconds when Benavidez got a little bit rocked. That almost, from what I've seen here, that almost pissed him off. That almost pissed Benavidez off, you know. He thought, what does this guy think he is? And I respect that because you're in front of your home fans. And tonight, and yeah, I'm not going to lie, David LeMieux isn't Bivol. So I'm not going to make the exact comparison, but that's what you're supposed to do. Now again, Benavidez needs to prove that same spite, that same venom, that same desire and motivation. He does need to prove that against Charlo. That same lack of respect, he needs to prove that against Charlo, against Plant, against the top guys. And if he does that, he'll be a league above Canelo. He'll be a league above Bomelo, because Bomelo was in front of his own fans against Bivol and didn't have any of that. Yeah, instead he sat on the ropes whilst his fans booed him, feeling sorry for himself. Now, like I said, I'm not sitting here and telling you that, Benavidez just beat Bivol or a Bivol equivalent. Absolutely not. David LeMieux isn't half of Bivol, but still, you can only beat what's in front of you. And you got to remember, he's still only 24-year-old or whatever it is. Now, there's no excuse. I'm going to give Benavidez... Listen, at the end of the day, Benavidez has said his next fight will be the business. Make sure that's the case. That's all I'm saying. You understand? I don't want to hear no more bums. I don't want to hear nothing else. But so far, so good. In fact, better than good. This went better than I expected. I actually thought... I put a fiver on that the fight would go distance. I had a weird feeling that LeMieux's pretty sturdy. I mean, Billy Joe Saunders isn't a big puncher, but still, Billy Joe Saunders went the distance with LeMieux. Now, also I had in my mind that Benavidez went the distance with Gavril twice. Now, Gavril, really, that guy's a serious dude. And to be honest, that first fight with Gavril and Benavidez was 50-50. I don't know what Gavril's been doing since, but he's a serious guy. Especially given what we've seen Benavidez do since. Benavidez looks like a monster, and Gavril had a split decision with the guy. Do you understand? Now, people will say, well, Benavidez is a lot more focused now, maybe. And I can't lie to you, based on this performance against LEMIEUX, I mean, this was the best Benavidez I've seen. And, relatively speaking, against the best competition. Benavidez, I mean, obviously, the Gavril win's the best win on his resume, but outside of that, this was the best win. When you consider the quality of it as well, in as much as he was fighting a game opponent who we know sturdy, who was sturdy. He didn't jump on the floor, even when he was Benavidez let off about a 30-punch combination, and he was still, LEMIEUX didn't jump on the floor, he was still kind of like half up and half down, and he still carried on fighting, and he didn't stop the fight. His team threw the towel in. He'd never stopped fighting, he never stopped throwing back. And the fact that Benavidez went in there with a man like that, who is it's very hard to beat a man, who wants to be there, who wants to win. No one can tell me David LEMIEX didn't actually try to win tonight. He was completely outmatched and outgunned, but still, he was there to win. And the fact that Benavidez was able to take that desire from LEMIEX and punch it out of him within 3 rounds. Normally in sport or in boxing, if there's a man in front of you who wants to be there, who wants to win, normally it goes 10 rounds if you're lucky. Simple as that. Think about matches like Mike Tyson versus Mitch Green. Yeah? Now, I'm not saying LEMIEX Mitch Green and Mike Tyson had massive bad blood, but still, that was a prime Mike Tyson, and he couldn't do nothing with Mitch Green. He wanted to be there. He wanted to win. He wanted to be in the fight. He refused to lose. Now, again, I'm not saying LEMIEX was on that kind of level, because that was true 1990s bad blood, but still, LEMIEX was there to win. And despite that, Benavidez rose above that and pushed his wig right the way back within 3 rounds. No breaking down. Normally we see a jab get going, we see a few shots, a few combinations over a few rounds, and then the guy breaks down, the guy gets tired, and then he gets out of there. This was in 2-3 rounds, and that's when they're the stoppages that really count. That's when stoppages are truly explosive, because you're not relying on fatigue. Like Canelo relies on fatigue. He relies on wearing his opponents down. And if he can't do that, he's out of ideas almost. Now, I'm not saying that Benavidez so far, Benavidez, for me, hasn't proven anything. I'm just saying, if he can replicate this, if he can go in there, and bum swarm Caleb Plant, which I don't see why not. Caleb Plant don't have no firepower. It took Canelo 10 rounds. I don't see why not. Benavidez could get Plant out of there within 6. That's what I'll be doing now. I'll be looking to fight Plant and get him out of there within 6 rounds and make a statement. Oops, Bomelo, take it all night. I smoked the dude pack within 6 rounds. And the fact that I didn't expect that Benavidez was going to come out and put on that kind of show. That no respect show. He treated LEMIEX tonight like a bum. And he wasn't a bum. But he treated him like that. He got him out there within the referee was going to stop it in the first round. Put it straight on him. And that was one of the best 30-second starts that LEMIEX ever had, especially against this kind of opponent. And despite that, Benavidez says, what? And then ended up, I couldn't believe it. I went from getting nervous in the first minute because LEMIEX looked pretty decent to then seeing Benavidez nearly win the fight in the same round. That's what greatness is made of. Now we need to see him replicate this against top guys. But if he can replicate them kind of qualities where he wants to get you out of there ASAP, no playing around, yeah, then he gonna be on a serious path to greatness. Now, I will say that combination stuff, it was a 30-punch combination, but I'm not sure about yet. Of course, we now know that the Canelo way of doing things, the Bomelo way of doing things, of loading up with big singles, that's probably not ideal either, but I do think that, fair play to the guy's gas tank. Now, it has to be said, he wasn't in there with someone who has the same firepower as him, but that's always been the case. Although, actually, no, we have seen him somewhat matched in the Gavril fight. But that was 4 years ago. Has Benavidez moved on since then and become more powerful? I wouldn't mind seeing that rematch a third time. Because that would give us a great basis. But Benavidez was able to stop Gavril. It's obviously not going to happen because Gavril's unknown. But still, theoretically speaking, that wouldn't be a bad matchstick to find out. Let's see how much Benavidez has improved. If Benavidez stopped Gavril within 6 rounds or stopped him at all, we'd know that he's made big leaps of improvement. But the reason I bring it up is to say that I mentioned a second ago about how we know now that Canelo's big one-off shots aren't as effective or efficient. However, yes, tonight it paid off against LEMIEX, loading up. He didn't load up, but he loads it up in as much as with volume. He just going ham with the volume. But I am sceptical, and that's why I mentioned about the Gavril thing. I wouldn't mind seeing some of that volume stuff against a better level opponent. So I'm not sure about how effective it's going to be. Although it has to be said, give Benavidez respect. I've seen a lot of fighters do that kind of thing. That was a huge flurry. And a lot of times, when fighters do that, they're done for 4 rounds. Benavidez did that massive flurry in round 1 and nothing really changed to the next round. Now, I don't know, given it was so early in the fight, it might be the case that the lactic acid, the stuff that makes you tired, hadn't settled into his muscles yet. All we know is we didn't have time to see it play out because he was out of there. So you have to give credit to Benavidez's conditioning and his just ruthlessness. A lot of fighters, people like Canelo, we always hear this fallacy of, oh, Canelo likes to download information. Oops, guess what? I ain't trying to hear that no more. I ain't trying to hear about downloading no information. Get these bums out of there. How about that? Oops, yeah? And Benavidez weren't trying to hear about no downloading. You get your ass out of there. How about that? Yeah, too much downloading, not enough getting stuck in. How about that? Yeah? So I respect that. I just hope that today's boxing is missing people with no respect. There's way too much respect these days. We all saw Caleb Plant sucking Canelo off. Yeah? So Benavidez, his edge can be having no respect and daring to be great and sticking it on dudes. Because Canelo, he don't have that. Canelo don't stick it on dudes. Yeah? Canelo ain't out here, you know what I mean, putting shifts in. When he ain't winning, he rolls over and throws his toys out the pram. That can be Benavidez's edge. Although it will be said, against better opposition, I'm not sure if I'd advise doing that, because it was quite low yield. Yes, the flurries are good because it can almost force a stoppage, but the flip side of that is you can be countered in between by a harder puncher, someone like, I don't know, a Charlo, maybe counter punching in between your shots, and you can then be gassed in the latter rounds in the 7, 8, 9, especially if you're being hit back hard in them rounds, if you get what I'm saying. So I'm not saying Benavidez should go from throwing 30 punches like he did to 1 punch like Canelo. No, I'm saying he should go from throwing 30 to 5, 6, 7, 8. Do you understand? Let's stop at 8. 8 good digs. Rather than, I think you get diminishing returns. When you start doing 30 and you can actually watch it. Benavidez, when he throws a few punch combinations, he has pretty good dig on it. Watch that back. Watch that flurry back. His elbows ended up being completely caved and he was just almost slapping. So you lose. There's always got to be balance. Canelo goes too far the other way. He has one shot, one huge leveraged shot, and he's done. Benavidez is almost the opposite of that. He doesn't have. Well, when he does them long flurries, he loses a lot of the leverage that he normally has in single or. I mean, Benavidez can get good leverage on 3, 4, 5 punch combinations, and I think if I was training him, that's what I'd focus on. I'd rather see Benavidez, put consecutive 5 punch combinations together. So, for example, step in, 5 punch combination, step out for a bit, 5 seconds later, you know what I mean? Going back to it, in, out, 5 punch, 5. I think it's better to do that. And that's how you build rhythm as well. That's how you break someone down. And then, well, I guess potentially, maybe that's what he did. Maybe he knew Benavidez. I mean, maybe he knew David LEMIEX was finished. And that's why he put it on him. Because Benavidez is known as a good finisher. He knows when someone's got. But, I mean, I can't believe he knew he was done in the first round. That's what I mean. Obviously he was though. Obviously Benavidez knew. Benavidez must have very high fight IQ, because I couldn't believe it. And he knew LEMIEX was finished. So I'm not being critical. Maybe I'm nitpicking, but I'm just saying I want the best. I want the best Benavidez out there. And I'm not sure at the higher levels if that can get you got to some extent. Now, like I said, Benavidez does have high IQ. We didn't see him doing that against Gavril, just going wild. So maybe he only does that when he knows the fighter's finished, or when he knows he's got the fighter's number. Because to be honest with you, I mean, that was the first round, and he knew he had this almost supreme confidence. And that is something I haven't seen him have, actually, to be honest. I haven't seen him be that ruthless. I mean, I've seen him go in there with Leon Love, and I think went about 6 rounds or something. I've never seen him be that ruthless. So I hope, for his sake and his career, this is something that is added to his game, where he's become just ruthless. Because his defense is tight. I think, yeah, he got caught with a left hook, but apart from that, his defense is tight. He knows how to tuck up. And I wasn't sure, about, because Benavidez can be a bit static, and David LEMIEX, that's his favourite thing, to have a static target. And a few of them shots that LEMIEX threw, I mean, he wasn't out of the fight. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, he lost 90% of the time that the fight was on, but he wasn't out of it, was he? It wasn't, for example, watch the Benavidez versus Leon Love fight. Leon Love was never in that fight for a split second. But LEMIEX was half in it, if you get what I'm saying. But the point what I'm trying to say is, he was throwing power shots that were on target. That's what I call someone's in the fight. Yeah, he was throwing power shots that were on target, but Benavidez's defense was too tight, and it's just there's levels to the game, obviously. But yeah, great showing from Benavidez. This is exactly what he needed. What he didn't need right now was some sort of decision win, which I thought that was possible. I did. I thought it was possible. I thought it was possible this fight was going to go distance. I did. LEMIEX, he's not a complete what? He's not a bum. I think actually the only man to stop him has been Golovkin, and that was 7 years ago. He's a sturdy dude, and he's not old. He's 32-year-old, and he was clearly coming to win. And so for Benavidez to stop that guy pretty much in the first round, to stop a man who's coming to win in the first round, more or less, that's serious. And I hope he takes that and uses it as confidence, not overconfidence. Don't think that you can do everyone like that. Because you ain't. Listen, I mean, statistically speaking, you ain't gonna do everyone like that. But there's no reason you can't go in there with them kind of bad intentions. They're the kind of intentions Castillo would talk about, bad mind intentions. There's no reason you can't have that. And a lot of fighters these days don't have that. Yeah? They have pity-patty intentions. They're nervous. Like Caleb Plant. And a lot of this division, you can run through. I would back Benavidez to run through Plant. I'm not sure about Charlo. I think Charlo's nervous. Could Benavidez potentially? If Benavidez runs through Plant and gets the XP, absorbs that soul, who knows? Maybe he's going to run through Charlo too. But for sure, in this fight, Benavidez, he rose levels in my opinion. Yes, the opposition wasn't the best ever, but even so, there's levels to it. I didn't think Benavidez was going to do a better performance than Golovkin did. Didn't think it. And he did. He blew Golovkin's performance out of the water. Fact. And then you got to remember as well, a lot of fighters, they see what Golovkin did and they say, wow. Oh, if Golovkin got him out of there, you know what I mean? And that's what I did. I said, well, if Golovkin stopped him, but I'm not sure if Benavidez is. But the fact that Benavidez must have saw what Golovkin did and said, listen, I'm going to destroy that. That shows something decent and special within him. A lot of fighters see the fact that Golovkin stopped him and say, okay, well, that gives me an excuse to go distance with him. Because if Golovkin stopped him, if I go distance, I can say, well, no one else stopped him either, kind of thing. That wasn't good enough for Benavidez. He wanted to outshine Golovkin, and that's a hard record to beat. Yeah? Golovkin stopping him in 6 rounds, I mean, stopping anyone in 6 rounds who's half decent is difficult, isn't it? And the fact Benavidez came out there and done it in more or less in the first round, hats off to the guy. He needs to make sure now, big fight. Make sure. No excuses. I don't care what you gotta do. Yeah? If I was BENAVIDEZ now, I'd be leaking emails and whatever else to expose people who are ducking if they are ducking. I don't want to hear no excuses about, or if you can't get a big fight, you must show proof why you can't. I don't want to hear, oh, well, you know, they didn't send a contract, because why didn't you send a contract? That's what I don't want to hear now. I don't want to hear that. I want to see you sending contracts, you in the media exposing things if they're going, if people don't want it, etc, etc. That's what must happen now. You can't do no more of this fighting bums, no more. Because you've proven, in fact, BENAVIDEZ is the best of the bums, if you get what I'm saying. And the fact that you're getting the best of the bums out of there in one round, there's nothing more to be said here now. You must make the big fights, and you must pressure them. And you can do that by, like I said, sending contracts online. It all must be done publicly. That's how you put pressure. Being quiet behind closed doors, everyone can hide then. Publicly announce you've sent a contract to Jamal Charlo and Caleb Plant for X amount of money, and we're waiting to hear their response. And then when they don't respond, you say, listen, here's the email snapshot. We sent the email a week ago, we ain't heard nothing. Oops. Yeah? And you put out Instagram videos and whatever else about the topic with all the receipts. That's what you must do. Yeah? No, don't let these guys know where to hide if that's the case. So far, it's been half of one and half of the other. He said his ducking, he said his ducking. No good. We must see receipts. But yeah, fair play to BENAVIDEZ. He proper outperformed himself tonight, but we need to see it against the next level. But so far, so good, 100%.